The Abbott government will not be sending a federal minister to the next round of climate negotiations beginning next week in Warsaw. There are some raised eyebrows here in Australia and perhaps some abroad at why the government will not have a minister involved in the negotiations. Now, every Friday, Wyatt Roy, the Liberal MP in the Brisbane electorate of Longman, joins Breaking Politics to chat through the issues. Welcome in, Wyatt. We know your position with climate change. You reckon this would worry you, does it?
Well, obviously we have the first sittings of Parliament and the government has a heavy agenda with strong priorities, particularly in the environment portfolio. So I think it is important that the Minister is in Australia to outline our priorities. Greg Hunt was in Queensland a little while ago signing MOUs about one-stop shops for environmental approvals. I note he's done that in New South Wales. So I think it is important that government is about priorities, and we have a strong agenda, and the Minister is delivering on what we promised at the election. In terms of Warsaw, there will be many more rounds of discussion. We've seen, of course, what happened back in Copenhagen when former Prime Minister Rudd had taken on those challenges with the at the Copenhagen summit. So there'll be many more rounds of discussion, and there'll be plenty of opportunities for the Minister to engage in those discussions.
Now, you know your critics immediately will go to the claim that this shows that Tony Abbott is not serious about climate change. In fact, is a denier in sheep's clothing, if you like, and that the government isn't serious. It does stoke those fears, doesn't it?
Well, I think that they're quite desperate to make those claims. I think they're more based in politics than in reality. We have clearly said that we accept the science of climate change. We have a strong set of policies to deal with that, but not at enormous economic cost and not at the cost of Australian jobs, effectively. So these international discussions go on for a very long time. Prime Minister Kevin Rudd, who was held up as this messiah of international diplomacy, had zero success in these forums. So there will be many opportunities across the future for us to engage in this. But we are going through the first sitting weeks of a new government with a strong agenda. And of course, the first piece of legislation in the Parliament is the repeal of the carbon tax, which will save hundreds of dollars for families and certainly thousands of dollars for business. So I think that it's probably important that the Environment Minister is in the Parliament for that.
Well, look, I think, unfortunately, what it sends a message, and it sends a message from the government saying that we are not serious about climate change. We're not interested in international negotiations. We're not interested in trying to find a solution. And I think the international community would be quite concerned that the reason why we're not sending a minister is because Greg Hunt says he has to be back here repealing a price on carbon. That's why he can't go and deal with international climate change negotiations. Now, the minister will say that he's sending some top bureaucrats, and I'm sure that they'll do an excellent job. But the truth of the matter here is if countries are going to negotiate and sign up to something, their governments have to be on board. And that has to start from the highest level, which is the minister in charge or a representative of that minister. So I think it sends a very bad message to the rest of the world. It really shows, I think, that the government's not really interested, and in fact, probably adds more credence to the reports that Tony Abbott doesn't really believe in climate change. So there is some, I think, concern there, and also concern about actually reaching an international agreement if we don't have the actual government there.